I think we're all here. I am officially, virtually calling to order the meeting of the Charter Commission on Monday, April 6th, 2020. All members are present remotely. Shane should be recording. The Zoom teleconference is also recording this. We have one guest in attendance, Mr. Peter Wiggins. And let's get started. So here's a question. Sandy, what are your thoughts on screen sharing to look at meeting minutes?
You screen sharing or for me?
Yeah.
I don't think there's a problem with that, right?
I don't think so. And then everybody can kind of look on.
Yeah.
All right, let's bring those up. I gotta find them.
I have them in front of me anyways.
There they are. All right, Denise, do you have them?
I do.
Okay. Actually, before we get started here, let's talk about, would people prefer that I mute everybody's line and you can kind of raise your hand, if you want to speak? There is also the option somewhere. I thought it was under more to allow people to kind of electronically.
We can unmute ourselves, so if
Yeah.
you mute everybody to make sure there's no background noise or anything, then we can all unmute as needed.
Okay, I'm gonna do that then, and, feel free to chime in if and when needed. Like I said, I don't really want to be controlling it, so just try and be cognizant of not speaking over other people, if you could, that's all. I'm gonna mute everybody now. Okay. Going back to screen sharing, and bear with me, this is literally the first Zoom meeting I have run myself, so bear with me. I've attended a bunch, but this is the first one I've actually run. Okay, so we have meeting minutes of Monday, March 23rd for review and acceptance. Everybody said they had them in front of them. So here's a question. I don't know how to... There we go. Okay. If everybody's had a chance to review and there are no objections, the chair will take a motion to accept the meetings of March 23rd. So moved?
So moved. Second.
Okay. Carrie moved, Dave Heaney seconded. All of those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I'll abstain because I was out.
Okay, we have to do this roll call, don't we? Hate that. Okay. Kevin accepted, Dave Heaney accepted. Carrie?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yeah, he's
Oh,
good.
you were abstaining.
Abstain, yep.
Keith?
He may not know how to unmute.
I unmuted you. Keith?
Yeah.
I unmuted you. Great, thank you. Sandy?
Yes.
Janie?
Yes.
David Wren?
Yes.
Did I hit everybody? And I accept. All right. Meeting minutes of March 23rd are accepted. I'm going to stop sharing. Okay. Question had come up in the last meeting that people asked me to table to this one. Our next scheduled meeting is April 13th because April 20th was going to be interfering with school vacation week. Given that, well, let me give you an update. So I do not have the draft charter from Lauren. She just texted me and indicated that I would have it. Hang on, let me just find the text again real quick. Have it by the end of this week. Finally, COVID issues have dropped off. She hopes everybody's and their family as well. Given that, do we want to keep the meeting on the 13th? I'm a little, knowing that we're going to get a draft charter to review, we're going to be a little bit behind. I'm also not entirely confident that we'll have it by the end of the week. So I would like to have a discussion as to whether we want to proceed with meeting next Monday or we want to move it back to our originally scheduled date, which was Monday, April 20th.
Well, I'm now not going away for April vacation, so I'm fine with the 20th.
Yeah, I'm the same boat, so I'm open the 20th if that works for everybody.
Okay. Good. Same here. Can anybody not make it on the 13th? I'm sorry, make it on the 20th as opposed to the 13th.
I'm fine.
Keith, does that work for you?
Yeah, the 20th works.
Great. Alright, I don't think this is something we need to vote on, so our next scheduled meeting will be Monday, April 20th instead of the 13th. If I do get the charter from Lauren by the end of the week, well, whenever I get it, I will forward it to everybody to review, and we can get started on that. Okay, testing of the new remote participation technology is going to be on the fly. Like I said, bear with me. Doesn't look like we have anybody from the public for open forum. I'm going to close that. We've talked about the review. I know Sandy was working on getting in touch with Mr. Feeney to see if we might be able to get an extension. As you can imagine, I think getting in touch with him was going to be rather difficult. I think if we do wind up getting the draft charter by the end of this week, we'll probably still be in good shape. We don't have too much more to deliberate on, which is a good thing. So we'll proceed with our current timeline. If things get a little dicey, we can push the subject a little bit further and possibly have Lauren reach out to the Attorney General's office on our behalf. So, all right, so let's open it up to discussions of the financial fiscal provisions within our current charter and discuss how we may want to modify those. So I was trying to figure out the best way of doing this. I did map out what our current timeline is, but then I went and looked at some other charters, specifically Amherst and North Attleboro, because I had made notes when we had read them the first time through that they were fairly well fleshed out and substantial and decent process in terms of involvement not just by the town manager, but by other committees as well, including school committee and, well, in some cases with the library trustees and town council, and kind of meeting in a joint process to kind of start the budget process. So I'm going to open it up to, are we happy with when and how the process is started with our current procedures that are within the charter?
So I feel like a lot of charters start a little bit earlier, like end of December, with at least getting sort of preliminary budgets from all the department heads. I didn't know if that would be something that we would find helpful. It seemed pretty common to say by December 31st that department heads would get their budgets to the town manager. So ours, from there, usually it's pretty close to what we have, but that first initial step is just kind of missing right now from our charter.
Yeah, I did find that as well, and in some cases it even outlines, the town manager will put together the detailed budget process and procedures, and will distribute it to the department town heads. Some of them didn't have time frames for that, but in advance of the budget season, and some of them did have significantly earlier starts to their budget than ours did. I think the only one that didn't, Amherst, was somewhat later, although they had a few areas that were sort of undefined. With the start to their budget, they put together a joint budget committee, and it just states that they're going to meet before the budget process starts. And I lost my train of thought. But their actual budget process doesn't start until the first notice of public hearing is March 15th, and that's in advance of a proposed budget being put in place. And they have the same, I checked, they have the same fiscal year end that we do. I think North Attleboro had the same. So in looking at a couple of them, like I said, North Attleboro's and Amherst's, they went into much more significant detail with regards to what would be required. They both, I think, had budget messages that had to be included along with the proposed budgets, and they outlined various things that needed to be included within the budget process, which I thought would be helpful for not only the town committee, but town council, but members attending the public hearing. So with the town council, the town council adopts the budget. There still has to be a formal public hearing, and in some cases, depending on the town, there were two. One before the budget process starts and one just prior to the town council approving the budget. So that could be helpful and help with transparency with respect to townspeople and some issues that we've heard with respect to not knowing, not understanding, not having information being available to them.
Hey Laura, I know this is something that does appear and sounds like a fair number of charters, but I feel like every time maybe not every time, many times when we have tried to get specific and prescriptive, like putting in a date by which something has to start into a charter, Lauren has said, hey, charter's more high level and let people figure out exactly how to meet those high level goals. Is this too detailed for what should be in a charter, or do we really need to get into this level of timing kind of details for this process?
So I can tell you, based on what I've read, the timeline is very much outlined within the charter. Now, in terms
Okay.
of dates, a lot of cases, they're written as no later than, let's see, for example, I'm looking at Amherst, North Attleboro. Joint meeting between town manager, town council, and school committee to happen no later than January 15th.
Got it.
Preliminary no later than February 15th. And in some cases, it will work its way back from the date of the town meeting. So in some of our specific deadlines, they will specify no later than 8 weeks from spring town meeting, no later than 12 weeks,
Okay.
no later than 4 weeks. So,
Point taken.
yeah.
I hear you. Okay.
I'm not sure I agree. Well, I think it depends on whether we have an interest or if we. I think we've discussed the fiscal year enough that we have determined that due to when schools receive their information from the state to do their budget, we're really not in a position to be able to change our fiscal year. So I'm not necessarily, while I don't necessarily like the specific dates being in there, prefacing it with no later than I have no issue with. I was worried at one point about, should we change those to a certain number of weeks prior to Springtown meeting in anticipation of somebody wanting to change the fiscal year end. But if they're going to go through that process, let them change the entire process and all of the timelines. That's probably not for us to worry about. That's my opinion. One thing that we do need to talk about is the Capital Improvements Committee. And if we want to keep it, and who is going to sit on it if we do. So currently the Capital Improvement Committee is made up of the town manager, a member of FinCom, a member of the Board of Selectmen, a member of the school committee, and a member of the planning board. Given that in our proposed recommendation, Board of Selectmen is going away, Finance Committee is going to be made up of a subcommittee of Town Council. So do we want to consider either eliminating the committee altogether, which, having reviewed a few other towns and the model charter, they leave the capital improvements solely up to the town manager. In the case of North Attleboro, it is only the town manager. In Watertown, it is only the town manager. And then there are towns such as Amherst, where it's a joint committee. It's representatives from town council, the school committee, and the library trustees. And Barnstable has it set as the town manager and any committee established for such purpose. So it's not even outlined within, I think it's any committee that may be established for such purpose. So the charter doesn't outright define it, but it stipulates one could be created. So what is our position on, do we want to keep the Capital Improvements Committee, and who should sit on it?
I like the idea of leaving it up to the new government to figure out if they want a committee for it.
Anybody else have any opinions on that?
I think my opinion is I don't have a particularly strong opinion. So I think that by default lines me up with Carrie on leaving it to the new government to decide where to land it.
I don't dislike the idea. I also
agree.
don't. Sorry, go ahead.
I agree with Carrie. Like, I think it's just leave it up to the new government to figure out if they're going to need it and something that they can, enact at a later time.
I 100% agree too. I don't feel strongly one way or the other. I think it's being left up to the government at the time is fine with me.
David Wren, you're unmuted.
Yeah, I think I'm with everybody else. I guess I was just thinking about it a little bit, just in the sense of, I'm not quite sure how active, I guess, the current capital committee is. I don't know too much about it, but so I just wasn't quite sure how important it really is. I don't know, Keith had any feedback on that or not, but,
If you unmute Keith, he might be able to do it.
Denise actually just texted me and said, I'm muted, I can't talk.
All right, so Laura, this is Denise. I apologize. So I'm indifferent as far as the I can't do the name of it now.
Capital Improvements Committee.
Capital Improvement Committee. But going back to the financial piece, the dates I was fine with. But did you close that out? Because I was going to say I like the overview idea of having the one-page overview of like the significant changes in the budget as part of that process. But I didn't even talk about it that much.
No, we didn't.
Okay.
I think I'm, we're going to have to, I'm not sure if everybody is happy with the level of information that is currently detailed, outlined, provided for in our current charter. I think I've read some that I like a little better than the way ours is written, but wanted to find out whether anybody else had any strong opinions on that matter.
Can I jump in here?
Sure.
I just, for clarification, from Denise, I think, like, remembering our former conversations, is what you're talking about, like a summative piece for the public?
Well, I imagine it'd be applicable to both, right? So, my current vision of the document would be like 3%, increase across the board, but there's more here because we added a head count, or we added hours, or we took a person away, so there's a reduction over here. Like, there's significant changes, so you don't have to ask the question, like, why did the budget jump up X number of dollars more than I expected to see, or whatever. But, I mean, public also, I think, would be helpful for the committee as well.
Yeah, I just asked because I do remember that conversation in terms of trying to find the information, for the average person looking through all those charts and those numbers. So I remember that conversation, so I was just seeking clarification there. And I agree with you.
So guys, I know I've seen some other towns that have done it really well that I thought was laid out nicely, that was easy to have a quick glance and understand where they're putting their budget dollars that cycle.
You're there, Keith, go ahead.
A lot of it's tough to look at because all the departments have step raises and they say a 3%, but you get a 3% raise, but on top of that, you get a step raise. So that's why it's hard to sometimes figure out the departments the way their budget is. That's when they go to get these raises and with the unions. Second thing is, have a meeting with the town manager, and he says, how we're looking out there, he goes, you remember the budget, with the town.
Am I the only one having a really hard time hearing Keith?
No. Hey,
No, I'm having a hard time too.
Keith, sorry, can you repeat yourself? Unfortunately, you're breaking up.
Can
you hear me now?
Yes.
Alright, so the problem with the budget with a lot of these departments we have step raises. So you get a 3% increase or a 2% increase, but then you have a step raise. So that gets added into your budget after it gets voted through the town. kind of crazy. It's in there, but it ain't in there because if the town doesn't vote on the budget right, the step rate doesn't get in there. I don't know if you understand that. It's kind of crazy how it works. I just think the department heads, they have a meeting with the town manager, and he actually goes over the budget with them and what he 2% or overall, whatever he says to do your budget on. And from there, you know, he presents the budget to the finance committee. I'm thinking, are we going to have a finance committee anymore, or is it going to be just the town council? So is it going to be the town manager, the town accountant goes to the town council and presents this town budget, and then they vote on it? Do they have an open meeting with the public? You know,
Yeah.
how is it?
So, yes, so they're under the town council form of government. There has to be a public hearing on the budget. Some towns actually have two, where there's one on the preliminary and then one, and that's done with the town manager, the school department, and other department heads. And then there's one that's run strictly by the town council in advance of them approving the final budget.
I'd like to have having that open meeting with the school and I think that we should have that in there. I really do.
I agree. I don't
Alright.
think it's a bad idea.
And I really don't, I don't think we need a finance committee. We have a 9-member council and a strong town manager and a good accountant. I really don't think we need a finance committee.
No, I agree. And you may recall, though, we haven't seen a draft charter yet, so it's been a while since we've seen what we've talked about. But the town council will act as the finance committee. They'll create a subcommittee of finance, and it can be made up of all or a subset of FinCom. And they will act as, for all intents and purposes, the current finance committee.
And the other one I have is capital improvement.
Mhm.
I really like capital improvement. I don't know if it would just be the town manager, but it's nice to have the school department in there, the fire department in there. You know, when we have a meeting, we go over what we need, we all discuss. Actually, is a really good meeting. We're all the department heads. We're not all there, but most of the time, like I'm with the police and the fire and the school, and we all go over a lot of things. And you know, I explain why I need a dump truck or what I need, and you know, it works. I don't know how it would work with just the town manager, and I don't know if we're working on it.
Yeah, I think, and somebody step in if I'm mistaken, so I think that is a process that happens but is not detailed within the current charter. And I suspect, so when we were talking about eliminating the capital improvements committee, there's a specific committee in place made up of somebody from FinCom, somebody from the Board of Selectmen, the town manager, planning board, and school committee. And they review all of the various, so I think what happens is after all of the department heads meet with the town manager comes to that committee with all of the different department heads' recommendations and requests and estimates for cost. And that's the point where we're wondering if we need to keep that or whether the town manager then becomes the capital improvement committee. So he would still meet with all the department heads and get the input, even though it's not defined in the charter. We could define it within the charter. But that step within the process is not currently there, but it sounds like it is happening, and that would need to continue in order for the town manager to make an appropriate determination as to what the actual capital improvement needs are of each department.
Right now, we do meet with the selectmen and the school committee, and you know that committee. All the department heads do meet with them, and I just think it works out pretty good. That's my opinion.
We feel that that is something that needs to be specifically outlined in the charter.
think there'd be some type of capital improvements meeting, yes. But that's my opinion.
I'm wondering if you can, call it a capital improvements meeting and then, kind of allow the town manager with the flexibility of the, town council to, kind of see who they need in these type of meetings and how they want to call it, you know what I mean? So just outline a basic thing of saying a capital improvement, under the direction of the town manager, shall meet and let them kind of, decide who should be there and how, So at least it forces, I shouldn't say forces, but at least it shows in there that it should be part of the charter. It's important, but, it may not be imperative to have, it outlined exactly who should be on the committee and who's going to be kind of, I don't want to say forced into it, but, for instance, right now we have a member of the planning board. Is it absolutely needed that a member of the planning board's part of the capital? It may be, I don't know, but I think it should be kind of given the discretion on who wants to be brought in on it.
Yeah. I will say that our charter is the only one that I read that includes planning board in any form of capital improvement committee, if they even have one. But it does, within our charter, it actually, so, give me 1 second. So, Capital Improvements Committee shall submit to the Board of Selectmen and FinCom a list of all capital improvements proposed by any department to be undertaken during the next ensuing 5 years, along with general cost estimate and recommended time schedules. So, it's not specifically stated that that meeting takes place, but it's implied that department heads have submitted what their capital improvement needs are. Then we're assuming that that takes place in a meeting of some kind.
Right, I don't think any town manager can avoid capital improvements and talking to the department heads about it. I guess my concern is just being too prescriptive in the charter about who the town manager wants to talk to when and how to present that to the town council. He absolutely should, but again, my concern was just being too prescriptive and sort of, we want a town manager to come in and run his departments the way he wants it.
Terry, I agree with you. I think that, if you're gonna have the town manager be the one that's, so-called presenting the, capital improvement program to the town council, and, again, if he or she, sees fit that, that he's gonna give them their report, let him or her go to, each one of the department heads and figure out what they actually need. If he feels that it's necessary to call in, the highway, police and fire and schools together for a meeting, they can do a joint presentation because he feels that he can consolidate equipment or buy new equipment, whatever he needs to do. I think should kind of be the discretion of the town manager to then move those things together and present to the town council and say, look, this is the overall report I have. This is why we want to do this. This is what we're looking at for the next 3, 4, 5 years. And how we're going to do it. I think that's a better way to do it than just, kind of pigeonhole them into saying, these members from these committees are going to be on there, where I just don't think that some of them even need to be on there. And if they don't, why force them to be there? It's just another meeting for them to go to.
Right, and he's clearly going to have to justify any request that he puts in. So he's going to meet with everybody he needs to meet with. I keep saying he, I mean he or she.
I personally like the idea of, kind of like down Kevin's Road, I think speaking to it, it try to make sense. That one exists, and the town manager is the primary member. I do like the idea of mentioning the 5-year planning program, making that clear. That we expect to see a capital budget.
We have a 5-year plan.
Yeah, that probably makes sense.
Yeah, that's the 5, so within the capital improvement program within our charter, There's a,
Yeah, it does talk about 5-year planning program.
it does. And then there are some other charters where, sorry, I'm just pulling it up real quick. They do not just a 5-year plan of capital improvements expenditures, but a 5-year financial forecast of all town revenue expenditures and basically just the general financial condition of the town. And I think that's something that's separate from the capital improvements plan.
Right, I mean, they obviously play into each other. I think stressing again that, you know, it's important to be picking out 5 years going forward. Would be important to put in here. It is maybe it's a little redundant out of the capital. Maybe it's redundant out of the capital improvement program.
I think
Hey, sorry, 1 second. Hey, Keith, can you do me a favor?
Yeah.
Can you mute yourself until you want to speak? We're getting feedback on your line specifically. Thanks. Just jump in when you need to talk.
And are we getting the same from Denise too? 'Cause I still hear a little bit.
I was muted, but
Then probably not.
See how that works out. All right. Fingers crossed. Sorry, Kevin, go ahead.
I think it's imperative, like what David was saying, I think it's gonna be on the town council to make that an imperative thing on when they're running the government and being able to relay to the town manager how important it is that they want him or her to have a 5-year or 10-year plan. I think those are the things that they're gonna have to work out with the town manager. I mean, if it's outlined in this capital improvement, I don't have a problem with it. I just think that that's gonna be something that they should be talking about constantly. You know, there are gonna be more meetings. They're not gonna have to wait till, an annual town meeting. They're not gonna have to wait. They're gonna be able to work with them and, or her and say, these are the things that we're looking for. We want a 5 or 10 or 15-year plan. We want you to be, we want this to be important, so.
Yeah, I just pipe in I totally agree with everything you just said, Kevin. I was thinking a little bit from the political angle, that having this in the document, when we go to sell it, one of the things we heard a lot was that there's a lack of a plan for the town over, beyond the current year. So this would just reinforce that kind of language and activity that we want to see as a town. So, does it really have any real purpose? Maybe not, but it's speaking again to the need to start as a town thinking forward 5 years, thinking into the future beyond the current budget. So I was kind of thinking almost more political aspect is how it would come across perhaps a little better.
I agree with you, David. I think it's a thing that we saw constantly in those surveys and, talking to people in town. I think it's, somebody wants to see what the idea is going to be for the next couple of years. So if it's going to be something that we can show people when we are explaining this, I think it's extremely important that we have taken it into consideration.
Yeah, I guess I'm just thinking, if someone said to me, I think it's really important to have a 5-year capital budget, and like someone said, well, how are you sure that's going to happen, Dave? I could say, well, there it is. It's in the document. It's an expectation.
And it is there currently. It's just there's no requirement to post it anywhere. I'm sure you could get that information if you asked for it. Perhaps we should specify that needs to be made publicly available on the website.
I feel like we're talking about two different things here, though. We're talking about the capital improvements 5-year plan versus a general town.
5-year forecast.
And the complaint that I thought people were making more was not so much the capital plan, but the long-range forecast for the town. I think we have to pull ours apart quite a bit because it's got a lot of references to finance committee and other, and it's definitely lacking a lot of detail. So I'm wondering if we can, start with, rather than starting with ours and trying to add to it, can we start with one that we like and then sort of edit from there?
I do like that idea.
And I,
Carver was a lot. I thought theirs was pretty, not quite as in-depth as Amherst, but they had a lot of good things in there that we've been talking about, that we, you know, a lot of these ideas that we've been shooting around are in their charter right now.
yeah.
If you want to hang on a second, so I outlined our current process, just in a quick Excel spreadsheet, and I also did North Attleboro's, and I started Amherst, but I didn't finish Amherst's. I just ran out of time. But if you want, I'll share the screen and we can walk through what Attleboro's process looks like. It's very high level, but you can at least see the timing of it, and the general idea of what they're looking to accomplish. I recommend probably looking at their actual charter itself, because it goes into a lot of really good detail as to what is required within each of these steps. So if you want to hang on, I'll share my screen and I'll walk through it. I'll talk through it for those two folks that are actually on the phone. Hang on 1 second. All right, let me see if I can make this bigger. So basically, with respect to budgets, it's all a matter of who is doing what to or with whom, and when. So I've outlined, I kind of took it apart and put it in chronological order. So with North Attleboro, it starts with, sorry, can everybody see this, by the way? Okay, good. Sorry. I know Denise and Keith can't, so I'm going to read it for you. So it starts with the town manager in consultation with town council and the school committee, a joint meeting to review the financial condition of the town, revenue and expense forecast, and any other relevant information. And that is to take place no later than January 15th of the fiscal year, of the current fiscal year. The next step in the process is the town manager gives to town council and the school committee a preliminary proposed operating budget with a budget message and a 5-year capital budget. And this included quite a bit of hefty detail if you wanted to take a look at that online. And that's due no later than February 15th. From that point, the town manager gives the final proposed budget, capital improvement plan, and a budget message to the town council, and that takes place no later than the first town council meeting in April. And again, within the charter itself, it details what is to be included within the budget message. Next step in the process is town council gives notice of a public hearing on the proposed budget, and that takes place upon receipt of the budget from the town manager and with 14 days notice. No later than 15 days prior to the start of the fiscal year, the town council adopts the budget. And then this is another thing that I liked that wasn't included within ours. Mid-year and more often as requested by town council, the town manager will give a budget to actual comparison, so they can kind of see where they are ahead or falling behind and any adjustments that they need to make. And then they also had within here, annually, the town manager submits to town council a 5-year financial forecast of revenue, expenditures, and general financial condition of the town. The next step in the process was just the audit by the auditing firm, and we have that as well. They outline specifically when theirs is to take place. I think ours just says annually. And then on an as-needed basis, if there was a need for a supplemental or an emergency appropriation, town manager would bring that to town council specifically. What does everybody think of?
I like it. Can we just adopt it?
I don't hate that idea, but I think I'd rather have everybody review it and make, comments or, edits as might be more applicable to our town. So if everybody is, and I like the general idea, I like the timing of it. I like that they started a little bit earlier in the season, and that there's some, more specific things in here, and they also outline, that the proposed budget, the preliminary budget, the final proposed budget, the actual budget, the 5-year forecast, all of that goes onto the town website, which I also think is important from transparency's point of view. And if it's not there, we probably should make it a requirement. So, all right, I'm going to unshare the screen or stop sharing. There we go.
I like the mid-year part of that as well. I think it shows, even if people are paying attention, they want to know where we stand, say 6 months in, for the actual comparison. I think that's good. I think right now, especially, this town's going to need it. I mean, we're just not. The economic things aren't going to disappear here. So I believe that just like we have a problem at October town meeting, it's going to be the same here. So they're going to have to continually give it up. And I think if people want to see where we're at and what needs to be appropriated, I think that suits our town well.
Well, you were missing a step before that too.
I am.
The December 31st. That's the very first section, 6.1.
Yep, I am. I didn't put it in there. I had it highlighted. So that is I'll read this for everybody. It starts 6.1, budget development. Town manager shall develop guidelines. I think I made reference to it. Develop guidelines for the preparation of departmental budget requests and an initial budget development schedule. No later than December 31st in any year, department heads shall submit to the town manager budget requests consistent with guidelines, such guidelines and schedule.
Yeah, I like that too. I think it's a way for the town manager to kind of give the department heads and, whoever needs to submit a budget to him some guidelines and some steps to understand where they're at. So they're not submitting a budget for, a 9% increase when they're looking at possibly level funding or a 2% increase. What's the point of them submitting a budget that's, way overblown when he should be giving them guidelines to say, look, this is what we're looking at. This is a general idea. We can obviously talk about it, but this is where I need you to come in at.
Okay, so given that we all seem to be in agreement with the way this is North Attleboro, not Amherst, has outlined their process and at least on a high level overview, we are somewhat in favor of this process and outlining it as the process for our charter going forward. Why don't we put it as a item to read it in the next 2 weeks and come back with any recommendations for tweaks to specifically North Attleboro's in any way that we feel is necessary for our town. Does that sound reasonable?
Sounds good to me.
Okay. All right. Well, that makes that easy. Within that, we should probably make you, within North Attleboro, the town manager is the one who does the capital improvements plan, him or herself. So just think about the option of either defining who that, if we want a committee and who that committee consists of, or whether we want to let the incoming administration determine who that committee is. So just something to keep in mind when you're reading it. Anybody have any other comments, questions, discussion items with regards to budget, fiscal, financial process?
Well, I was just thinking, maybe my last thought was, well, I think I'm all in favor of, letting the town council develop their own, how they want to set these, capital improvements program up and the capital committee up. I do think it helps to have at least a basic, guideline, I guess, for lack of a better word, that they're given. Because, some of these people have been elected to a position and never done any of this kind of stuff. So it's, to me, it just seems like kind of a little bit of a roadmap. At least it's a good idea. Maybe not so specific as who sits on these committees, but I think the idea of a general roadmap, I think makes a lot of sense. Which I think not that about doesn't make sense.
Okay. Yeah, there could be, one or more members of town council that could potentially sit on that
Right.
committee. And they don't necessarily, and I probably would try and make sure that, they are separate from the folks that are sitting on the finance subcommittee, just from a perspective of spreading themselves too thin. That's my
Yeah, I don't know if they would do that, honestly. I'm not sure that would be the case. I'm not sure about that. Because I would think if you're on the finance committee, you're probably very interested in the capital improvements committee also. I would think I would actually think there'd be overlapping between the two.
You do?
Yeah.
I think we need to make sure we talk to Lauren about that, because you're now taking somebody from the legislative branch and putting them on a committee in the executive branch. So you want to make sure that there's no conflict there.
Okay. What does that mean?
If you want somebody from the town council to sit on an executive committee like this capital improvements committee, there might be a conflict between the branches of government. So you want to
How do you feel that the capital improvements committee is executive?
Because town manager is running it, and it's the department heads and the elected boards. So those would be the executive branch.
Okay. So even within, unless I'm mistaken, well, the way it seems to be outlined, the committee is just making a recommendation to town manager. Town manager makes the recommendation to town council.
Right, and so I'm saying there might be a conflict if a member of town council is sitting on that committee making a recommendation to the town manager. They should be separate. So I'm simply suggesting that is a concern that we need to look into and just confirm that would be okay if people really want to do that. But it strikes me as a conflict.
Okay. Yeah, and
Because otherwise the capital committee is submitting to themselves in theory. Some members are submitting to themselves.
Right, and if the budget is originating with the town manager and she's responsible for setting the priorities, and then giving it to town council to approve or disapprove, you just need to make sure that there's a separation of powers. That's why we have the two branches. So.
okay.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good point.
Amherst
I hadn't thought like that. That's a good point.
Yeah.
It may not be. Lauren is the expert, but it rang a concern for me is all.
Yeah, I'm looking to see, it looks like Amherst, with a town council form of government, had representatives from town council, school committee, and the library trustees making up a joint committee with the town manager. But the others, that is a good point. Maybe there is a reason why, in some cases, it's just a town manager. Okay. Any other thoughts, opinions, ideas, discussions on financial and fiscal provisions? Very good. I don't know why, but it seems like it's much, much, much further off in the distance now with this whole, the general environment. But we still need to talk about education and public outreach and how that is going to look. But I'll let Sandy jump in. She had an idea about at least going back to the boards and committees and commissions that came to visit with us. Sandy, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, I just thought it would be nice to maybe then send a subset of us to their meetings to, once we have a draft, to explain, just give an overall view of what we decided, as well as specifically how it would impact their committee, their commission, their board. As sort of a, you know, I guess it accomplishes a few things. It's a nice way of reaching back out to those who gave us input. It's reaching out to the people that probably the most vocal in town and politically active in town, and hopefully getting them to buy in to the recommendations we're making. And again, if we could do like a subset to each of as many committees, I guess, as possible. I don't know if we'll hit all of them, but as many as we can that reached out to us.
Might be a good idea to see if we can hit one of the joint committees specifically, and then we can hit school, FinCom, and Board of Selectmen all at once, although presenting to them might be a little daunting. I don't know if we want to get questions and feedback from 20 some odd folks all at the same time, but it's a good gauntlet for the public hearing. It's good practice, at least. And it would save some time. Does anybody have any thoughts on the subject? There's a very good possibility that folks may not even want to meet with us. Historical district commissions probably not going to be banging down our door. That being said, if they're looking to get an idea of specifically what we are proposing, some may be more interested than others. Does anybody have any thoughts on that matter?
I like the idea. I'm just cautious about the amount of time it could take to go to every single committee meeting in town. That's all. The resources of it.
Well, there's 9 of us. We could break it up and get it done pretty easily, I think.
And I know the larger committees, the Selectmen and Finance, those are so many. Are those other committees that came and spoke to us, but maybe don't meet as often, even in times of good health for everybody, still meeting now?
No. Let me take a look real quick at the town website and see what's out there for agendas under. Most of them get posted under the town clerks if they don't have their own page. So
Yeah, I guess that's my way of saying I think it's a good idea. I just am thinking forward to logistics of how it would actually work.
yeah. So I'm not seeing very many out there right now. But that doesn't mean they're not happening. And also, this would not be until we had a draft charter and we had voted on it. And those were our final decisions. So now I'm confused. Were we proposing to do this before or after the vote on the charter, Sandy?
So after the draft, the one that's August, right?
Yep.
After the draft, but before the final, or even after the final, like just as a way of outreaching to everybody. I really, the one thing that keeps resonating with me is that if we ask people to come to us to a public hearing, we're not going to get many. That our best bet of really public outreach is to go to them. And so the more we can go to people, rather than waiting for them to come to us to educate them, I think that the better off we're gonna be.
Okay, so if we're already going to have voted on the charter as a whole, and probably start to put our report together with our recommendation, I think we just make the offer available. At that point, we're looking at the September to November timeframe. Hopefully, we are not remotely all participating by then. And I think we just make the offer available to anybody that wants to hear from us. Not all of them are going to take us up on it. Some of them may just ignore the request altogether. The good news is that if we get in front of the Board of Selectmen or FinCom or school committee or all three of them at once at a joint meeting, those tend to be more widely viewed meetings on the Norton Media Center. So we will be getting in front of more people that way as well. So just a thought. Anybody disagree with that game plan?
I think the plan's great. I personally think that perhaps I'd rather a joint committee going before the Board of Selectmen, just the Board of Selectmen, will give us a little more play, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the joint committees can be very well launched after the fact, if it's controversial. If it's not controversial, I'm not many people watching, because they're long.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Keith, go ahead.
I think once we get a draft, people are gonna reach out to us, and once they start reviewing it, and I think we're gonna hear a lot of that, once we get a draft out there. I really do.
I would think so. I think even once we started voting on certain things in January, I wish a lot more people reached out to me and wanted to talk.
Yeah. Once they see something out there, they're gonna come forward, they're either gonna like it or they're not gonna like it, and I think we can put this thing together.
Agreed. Janie, did you have something?
I do, thank you. I was gonna say that as far as that plan, I think it's a great idea. I think it's a good idea to go out to some of those meetings and offer ourselves and put ourselves out there once we have voted on a draft. I also think it might be a nice idea to take one date in our meeting for a lot of the meetings that might not meet for a lot of the committees that might not meet as much, or we can't get to all of them, maybe take one of our meetings and set it up kind of as an open invite for anybody from those meetings who might want to come, or a representative from those meetings who might want to come. I think doing a little bit, setting up our meeting and then going out too at the same time might be a way to hit all of the people who we have reached out to and have reached out to us as well.
I like it. Anybody else have any ideas? Again, just to reiterate, this is not in lieu of our public hearing, which we are still required to have. This is supplemental, and helps us spread the word out a little bit more broadly.
Yeah, I like Janie's idea. Hitting the big ones, and then to those who meet less frequently, invite them.
Give them a separate date where they can come to us if they're not meeting. Yeah, because there's some. What was the
I think
one?
some of them don't meet quite as often. They might meet quarterly, or so.
The Cultural Council in particular, like 6 months out of the year, they don't do very much. I think the fall actually coincides with some of their meeting dates, but there could be others in that same situation where they're just not meeting or they don't have anything on the agenda, and we can invite them to one of ours, just set it aside. I do like that idea.
I just think too that we might have to be, well, I think we definitely have to be prepared for the, the naysayers and this whole thing that are going to actively participate to, discredit and totally go against that. I'm not so much worried about the people that are gonna read it and make their own educated decision, but I also know that for a fact there's gonna be, another side to this of anti-charter, and no matter what we do, you're gonna see the flyers or the signs or whatever it may be, so I don't think we have to discuss it now, we just gotta be prepared for it, because it is coming.
Yeah, I think we're definitely going to have to come up with a game plan on how to, combat's not the right word, but, address some of the, things that might get posted in social media and how we want to plan going forward, and, whether we want to engage there, we want to direct people somewhere else, but yeah, that's,
And I don't think it's going to be, and honestly, I don't think we should be worried about people that are making, obviously, an educated decision and they're using facts and that basis on how they want to do it. I'm more worried about, the complete opposite of that, of how are we going to combat the stuff that's just not true, or the rumor mill, or of course Facebook and everything else. I mean, I think it's going to be, ongoing and constant. And then on top of it, we've seen it happen in the past with different things and flyers and whatnot that basically will come down to, and I'm not saying this is going to happen, but straight out lies. I mean, we're going to have to combat that some way, because if we don't, what they say about rumors, you know what I mean?
yeah. No, agreed. We are going to have to come up with a game plan, as much as I hate engaging in,
This is
Social
Norton,
media.
this is Norton, by the way.
yeah. I don't see any, it would be nice to come out unscathed, but I'm not terribly optimistic on that front. And I agree. I think we should be prepared to combat falsehoods. And maybe that's the position we take is, we'll defend ourselves against, non-truths, non-facts. But otherwise, the information stands for itself and it's available anywhere, and we're happy to talk to anybody that wants to attend the meeting or reach out to any of us individually.
We all know, I mean, if we're going to get our facts out and what the truth is, and people are going to make educated decisions, so be it. You know what I mean? We're not going to change those people's opinions. I'm all worried about it through the Facebook stuff and.
Kevin, you froze up. I didn't mute you, I swear.
I've been having major problems with Wi-Fi connections in my house too. This has happened to me on so many Zoom meetings so far.
The last one that I was on, I got your internet connection is unstable, and I was like,
all the time.
I haven't seen it tonight, and I haven't seen it. It wasn't my last meeting; it was the meeting before where I got it, and it was 6:30 at night. So, I would have expected it to happen more during the day. I think we lost. Oh,
That's good.
we lost a lot of people, I think. Oh, no, they're there. I just had the chat on. We definitely lost Kevin. All right, 8:14. Peter says he's still on. Everybody wave to Peter. All right. We'll just show at 8:14 that Kevin dropped out for a minute. Hopefully he'll be back on. Fortunately, we're at the tail end of our agenda. Does anybody have any other ideas with regards to education and public outreach? Obviously, we can get into that a little bit further once we've got an actual charter to review and vote on. I'm trying to be patient. It's not working. All right. I'm just going to text Kevin and tell him we're done. I don't have a text from him. All right. Anything else that anybody wanted to discuss this evening? Seeing none?
transportation. Like, talk to you.
No other topics. Next meeting is going to be April 20th. Definitely via remote participation. This seemed to go well. If everybody's okay with it, we'll continue with Zoom.
Yeah, can I ask a quick question?
Sure, go ahead.
I got April 20th. I feel like I'm missing a meeting here, so we go to the 20th, and I don't see another meeting until the 19th. I feel like I'm missing one somewhere.
Well, originally, let's see. Nope, we've got one on May 4th.
No, not Dave then. Not yet, at least. Meeting I don't have it in my calendar.
We'll put it in your calendar. You're busy that night.
Oh, you know what? I think we were going down to the Cape.
Oh, maybe you weren't going to be there. Well, you're not going there. You're
No,
going
we're not going.
You're going to stay home.
No, we're not going. Yeah.
Although May 4th is supposedly the date that the...
Oh, that's good.
That's not gonna happen.
Yeah, I know. I could be
No,
optimistic.
I've got to get somebody in my house until May 8th, I think, so. No way.
Okay. So anybody else have anything they want to talk about? We're good. We gave something to Kevin, but it was to talk to Keith. Can somebody work with Keith on his iPad to get it on Zoom? Can I ask somebody to do that?
I've never used an iPad on Zoom, but I can try. Oh, I saw Janie waving.
Janie?
Yeah, either Kevin or I can help him get it on his iPad. I'm on an iPad now, so.
Okay, that'd be great. I don't have one, or I would volunteer.
Yeah, I don't have one either.
Okay.
Okay.
And if worse comes to worse, Sandy has very nicely made a Chromebook available if that doesn't work out, but I can't imagine why an iPad won't. So let's go forward with that. All right, everybody's happy with this? We're good. I will take a motion to adjourn. Raise your hands. Oh, wait, no, I need a motion, sorry. Forgot, Sandy. She's gonna yell at me.
So moved. Second.
David Heaney motioned, Carrie seconded. All in favor, raise your hand.
Denise says aye.
Okay. Keith, you're good? I'm gonna say Keith's good. All right, we are adjourned. I'm gonna shut off recording. I'm going to save it. Okay, and somebody will tell me how to find that later. Shane, we're all set. Thank you very much for your help tonight.
Thank you.
Shane,
Well, nice seeing everybody.
Shane,
Nice to see everybody.
All right, everybody have a wonderful
Thank you.
great. All right, I'm gonna end the meeting. Have a good night.
Thank you very much.
Bye, Peter.
Monthly, everyone!
Good night, Peter.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Monthly, everyone!
Here.
Night, David Payne of the game!
Good night.
Good night. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Take care.
Hey, Jamie, staying positive during this COVID-19.